What's up, everyone? Today we have a Stihl KM110R. This is a 4-mix, so that's interesting. The owner says it needs a tune-up, so we're going to get some tune-up supplies. We're going to look at the fuel line, see if that's of any issue, and then we're going to perhaps take the carb off. Looking a little wet in there, and see what's going on. I have a new air filter, and we're gonna look at the spark arrestor, because, well, this is a good reason why you always want to do that. Tried giving it a quick, just like a little pump to see if it was leaking out of the tank, or perhaps through a fuel line or something. I don't really see any leaks, so I don't know where that wet came from. Thinking maybe the air filter just kind of leaked through there. Maybe it was flooded. It's pretty dry. It's not horrible, but we have a new one. Yeah, it's not horrible at all, actually. I don't think it's even gas. I think it's just oil. Okay. So, I don't think we really have to worry too much about that. What I will do is I'm going to clean up some of the side areas back here, just to make sure, because it is dangerously close to the fuel tank area, or the inlet for the fuel tank. I don't want any unnecessary garbage to go in there. So let's wipe that down. Next, we are going to look at the spark plug. These spark plugs are a real joy, because they're not, if I remember correctly, they're not the same as a lot of the other ones. They're really, really long. Could be wrong. Nope, I'm not. It's a Bosch. That's interesting. If you were to look online and see how to test these plugs, it will give you a wide range of acceptable limits. I took that plug and I cleaned it out, or cleaned it off a little bit, to see if we could kind of take a few readings. And now we are set to ohms. Now you could just simply could be dirty. This spot's clean. There we go. Getting about 9.05 K. So if you were to look online and see what the resistance should be, I think this should be a resistor spark plug. It's a R10, so it should be. It should, usually if you Google it, it'll say it should be no more than 5,000. But I've noticed on these smaller ones, it's a lot more. So 9 could be a little high though. But one thing I don't like about it is a Bosch. I'm going to get a new NGK. The NGK should be a CMR7A. At least that's what I'm going to be putting in there. And we'll give it a pull after we put a new filter in, and a fuel filter, and see if it runs any better. But let me explain what happened. The owner said it was running for about 10 seconds and then it stopped. He doesn't know why, and he thought it was just because it needed a tune-up. Well, yeah, it could need a tune-up, but he's also paying for a tune-up, so we're gonna at least do the normal tune-up parts. I looked at the fuel line. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that fuel line whatsoever, so we're going to bypass that. We're gonna just do potentially the fuel filter. Very well could be bad. I'm holding a NGK because it's easier to use with your hands and wearing gloves. But it's 2.83. I was just kind of hovering back and forth depending on, you know, a little bit of movement, I'm sure, just by holding it. But that's a lot better. I'm going to use the NGK. Just so it can be documented. We're putting a brand new air filter in there. Let's get this started with the fingers. There we go. We have a plug, we have air filter, fuel line is okay. Something I would also highly recommend doing is a primer bulb if it was in poor condition or if it's super discolored. This one looks almost brand new, so that's not needed. Now we're going to check the fuel before we really continue. I am not a fan of these caps. I mean, it doesn't seem super horrible. It doesn't really seem super great either. Actually, it wasn't horrible. Could be a little old though, and it kind of looks like it could be a little rich with oil. But we have it out. And the fuel filter is accessible now. Let's take, and even the fuel filter looks pretty much brand new. I don't even think we'll even have to use a new fuel filter. Looks like we lucked out on that one. I will say though, in order to replace that fuel filter, it is probably going to be a whole lot easier if you take the carb off, because you have to take off this little grommet piece. I mean, technically you don't have to, I suppose. It's just going to make it a whole lot easier, and I don't really want to have to do that. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is, because the fuel line is good, the fuel filter is good, and while yes, this is a tune-up, just unnecessarily replacing parts, it's just going to put more expense towards the owner, and it's really not going to have any benefit. Even though it wasn't horrible, let's put some new fuel in. Well, with that, then it's going to be kind of hard to run. I just filled it so the fuel filter is completely submerged. Now in there is non-ethanol blend of Echo Red Armor. I'm not a fan of the Stihl oil. There we go. And like I said, the reason why we have to check the spark arrestor is Stihl. You generally don't have to take that all the way out, but it makes it a lot easier. So what ends up happening with Stihls in particular is I don't know if the Stihl oil is just meant to be burned at a much higher rate or something. I don't know. Or excuse me, much higher temperature. And when you don't burn it at that temperature, it makes it real hard, or makes it real carbony. So, all the time. Is there two of these? I don't think so. All the time I get plugged spark arresters. I need to be where you are. And it's mainly just due to excess carbon. It actually isn't horrible. Could be a lot worse, that's for sure. Anyway, that's my theory. But I got this cleaned up. Just took some gas. You can use propane, MAP gas. Probably don't want to use acetylene, but just get it hot, and the carbon will literally just burn right off. Now, the real fun, joyous part is just putting it back in. I think that's good. Now that may not seem like a common tune-up part, but I would argue that it's probably one of the most overlooked and one of the most important tune-ups you can do for a Stihl weed eater. Because unless you routinely have it running at the full maximum speed so it gets hot, you're gonna have a buildup. And even when you do run at the intended speed, you're still gonna get a buildup. You just get a whole lot more if you like feather it or don't use all the speed. Let's give it a try. Let's try the choke. We'll push start. It was stuck a little bit. Put it back in. There you have it. Barely any tuning needed because we knew where we kind of had to go to begin with, and with those limiter caps on there, you can't really do too much adjustment. So we definitely follow, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. See you later.